We all have different stories. None of us are like each other. We're not robots, we're humans. But that difference kind of brings us together in a way.
The notion of an integrated identity is how do you create the conditions where somebody can really kind of bring their full selves into a learning environment and it is not dissonant or conflicted with the identity they're expected to take up in school. It matters a lot what your identity is because people respond to you in different kinds of ways depending on your identity, and you come to understand yourself in different kinds of ways based on your identity.
Because even though people are different, that doesn't mean they're not really a family.
Identity forms your perspective. It forms what you think about the world and what you think about people around you, and very often how you talk to them and how you relate to them.
I definitely think that when students feel like their identities are welcomed, one, and celebrated two, it certainly impacts their academic success positively and significantly.
So I'm going to be putting these around the room, and we're going to do a silent gallery walk.
We walked around looking for connections through people's artifacts. One artifact might have been a picture of your grandfather. Another artifact could have been a picture of you and your family at a family reunion, or teachers, or stuffed animals that really applied to you, things that got you through tough times. And I learned a lot about people. Some people cried, some people laughed. And I learned some good things, some bad things, some sad things, some happy things about different people in my crew.
But for many students, there's a disconnect between what they've learned at home, how they've come to understand themselves, and what they see in school.
Schools were built for a certain type of student, and a lot of our kids don't see themselves at school. They don't see themselves in their teachers. They don't see themselves in the curriculum.
Much of schools and much of the structures of schooling really perpetuate white supremacist ideas and structures and realities for young people, and they do that despite the fact that the vast majority of people working in schools don't believe in perpetuating those things and actually try to work against them. But school structures, policies, practices, as they've been in place for the last 150 years, systematically reproduce inequality and racism and harm. Crew is a space that's dedicated to really dig into questions of identity, belonging, what is the world like, how do I want to participate in this?
And I want to educate children sometime in the near future about the LGBTQ plus community. Because I know that a lot of parents and stuff don't really let their kids understand what that is. And a family is a family is a family. We learned how families are all different. Some families have two moms or two dads, or some families have no children at all. And how some families don't even have to be blood related to each other.
So crew is a particular context that I think creates the opportunity for belonging rather than inclusion if we really take to heart the idea that we are crew, not passengers. Crew, you are actively participating in the direction that the boat is going. You're actively participating in the creation of the experience that's happening there. And I think that's a good analogy for thinking about the difference between a setting that includes people and a setting where all different kinds of people really belong. It's critical that young people have that kind of space, and very few of them do. It's also critical that adults have that space, and very few of us do, where we really get to think with other people about how am I showing up here? What is it I really hope to do? What's the best way that we can work together to accomplish this?
It's very important to have courageous conversations as a group of adults first. I think that's where the work starts.
And we're going to segue into something we talked about earlier, and that is these courageous conversations around identity, specifically race. and we'll be discussing our first encounters with race or racism.
I guess it wasn't until I went to college that I really was able to separate particularly my dad's views on race and what I came to realize were really problematic views on race with my own identity and start to distance myself.
It's important for us to practice having those conversations, that when we have hard questions to answer from kids, or when we have to get into a conversation where kids aren't seeing eye to eye, we've already practiced having those conversations, and we know how to respond to students, or we know this is an issue, I'm going to refer you to this person to talk to.
That we all need to come together and support each other if we want to accomplish something. And I feel like with support and also communication,
the more we know each other, the more that we can understand each other, the more we can be able to support each other.
In an age where the structural racism, the kind of gross economic and social inequities in society are so visible and so obvious that it's upon all of us to really act differently and to be always mindful of the immense power of school and the immense power of educators in shaping possibilities for young people.
Together, we're a world, and we can't be something without the other. We're like molecules and atoms. You can't have one if you don't have the other. So we use that to build off of each other, and that's how we're gonna fly to success, because without each other, we can't.